It's Red Eye Radio. Talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios. For Gary McNamara and Eric Harley, Dan Mandis. This is Red Eye Radio.
866-907-3339. Dan here indeed, in for Gary and Eric. So I'm going through some of this audio. Last night on CNN, the reporter Carl Bernstein is out there, and this is the headline from the Daily Mail. Watergate reporter Carl Bernstein claims Biden staffers have witnessed up to 20 marked incidents of cognitive decline and physical infirmity in the ailing president in the last 18 months. Now, here's the thing, is that this would indicate that, and I don't know why anybody would be surprised by this, but this would indicate that not only is Joe Biden clearly suffering, which we all know, but there's also a cover-up. And that means that the entire Biden administration, and particularly those within Joe Biden's inner circle, are privy to what's going on, and they are putting America at risk. So you have, in effect, Joe Biden clearly declining, clearly not fit for office, and you have a cover-up as well. And so this, I think, tells you the state, in my opinion, of the Democrat Party, because everybody knows this within the Democrat Party. You've got donors. You've got Democrats who are within Joe Biden's inner circle. You have the Democrat Party as well. The people within the Democrat Party, don't think for a moment that everybody within that party doesn't know what's going on. I mean, it's obvious, and everybody's been talking about this for a long time now. So this really is confirming what we already knew. I'm going to play some audio from this interview. And again, it is Anderson Cooper on CNN, Carl Bernstein, and he is saying that for Joe Biden, there's been a lot of problems within the past year.
Well, these are people, several of them, who are very close to President Biden, who love him, have supported him, have been among them are some people who have raised a lot of money for him. And they are adamant that what we saw the other night, the Joe Biden we saw, is not a one-off, that there have been 15, 20 occasions in the last year and a half when the president has appeared somewhat as he did in that horror show that we witnessed. And what's so significant is the people that this is coming from, and also how many people around the president are aware of such incidents, including some reporters, incidentally, who have witnessed some of them.
So I want to know who the reporters are. And for Carl Bernstein, I don't know if there's like some sort of a reporter, I don't know what you'd call it, but reporter creed or whatever, where, okay, so reporters don't tattle on each other. But if Carl Bernstein, if he's out there saying, and he is, I just played you the audio, that there are reporters that know that this is going on and are not reporting this, not alerting the American people, especially after what we saw, as he says, the horror show that was last Thursday night. And there's reporters that know that this has been an issue for at least the past year, and they're not saying anything. Are you kidding me? But you see, here's the thing. If you think about it, we've been seeing these incidents a lot in the last year. And by and large, the mainstream media has been absent from the criticizing and the criticism of Joe Biden. They leave that to the great unwashed of talk radio and conservatives. But really, these days, isn't that who the truth tellers are these days? Is people on talk radio and folks, commentators on Fox News and so forth? I mean, the mainstream media is not going to talk about it. I would love to know, though, from Carl Bernstein and Anderson Cooper, from what I can tell, he didn't press the subject. The first thing I would have asked was, Carl Bernstein, you just said that there are reporters that know that our president is mentally incapacitated and they're not reporting on it. Who are those reporters? Who are the names? Tell us the names. I'd be willing to bet that they're from CNN and MSNBC, to name just two. And so the other thing that Cooper asked about was the week or so, the over week that Joe Biden spent up at Camp David. Remember that whole thing? He's up there with, a dozen more of these advisors that are trying to get him to be able to perform well in the debate leading up to the debate on Thursday. Well, this is what he said about that debate prep. And Ron Klain is a guy you're going to hear mentioned in this article or in this upcoming soundbite. Ron Klain is a longtime Democrat and Joe Biden operative.
Say that in the last 6 months particularly, there has been a marked incidence of cognitive decline and physical infirmity.
What I wonder about is the people who were, working with him at Camp David, allegedly in this intensive debate prep, if there were concerns there about this, and I don't know if you have got any word about that, but how anybody involved in that debate prep, didn't anybody see something?
The debate prep was supervised by Ron Klain, who has been with President Biden for many years. And people I've talked to have all been to Ron Klain in the last year to say, we have a problem.
Okay, and I understand that. People are going to Ron Klain. Ron Klain is Joe Biden's former chief of staff. But, in this country, if you want to go public with something, if you want to protect Americans and protect our country over your political beliefs, then why wouldn't you seek out a journalist? Why wouldn't you go to any number of radio shows in Washington, D.C.? Heck, WMAL, proud Red Eye Radio affiliate. I'm sure that they would have loved to have had some of these Washington, D.C. insiders on and talk about what the heck is going on with Joe Biden. In other words, I am appalled, but not surprised. I am appalled that Joe Biden has been having as many incidents as they're referring to. Carl Bernstein says up to 20. I'd be willing to bet it's probably a lot more than that. But also the number of people that knew that there were problems. Why didn't they come forward? There's always the crime, and there's the cover-up. We're talking about the cover-up. This is an indictment not only of Joe Biden, but of Jill Biden as well, of course. Joe Biden, Jill Biden, and all of those people that knew that the president was in a big-time free fall related to his cognitive abilities. Here's one more audio bite.
There was a fundraiser at which he started at the podium, and then he became very stiff, according to the people there, as if it were almost a kind of rigor mortis.
This was reported allegedly in June of 2020.
This was this was a year ago almost exactly at the old Four Seasons restaurant on Park Avenue. And he became very stiff, and a chair had to be brought for him to do the latter part of the event. I think that what these folks are saying and have been saying for a while is, yes, he's great when we see him, as we have tonight, but he also has these inexplicable moments that we are very concerned about, and you, Ron Klain.
Yeah, and you, Ron Klain, need to figure out what to do next. And if Klain wasn't going to do anything, then they should have figured something out. Because now they are in a situation. Here's the thing. Because they didn't act, man, there's so much here. Just so you know, I just saw this story. So so I was working really hard to get the audio and everything. But here's the thing. So they knew when Biden is going through the primary, when they are not allowing any real candidates to run against Joe Biden, they knew that he was becoming further and further incapacitated. They knew it. Yet they still allowed him to roll through the primary. And now they have a situation where he's got the delegates, obviously. And now they don't really know what to do. They have done this to themselves. And this is another instance where Trump derangement syndrome has led to an untenable situation for the Democrats, because they couldn't possibly allow Donald Trump to be in office again. And they honestly felt that Joe Biden was the one guy, the only guy that could beat Donald Trump. So now, Weekend at Bernie style, they are just dragging Joe Biden, everywhere he needs to be. They give him a teleprompter. They tie his tie for him. They wipe the drool off his chin, and they go and they tell him what to say. And he does it very obediently. And Jill Biden, to me, she is an absolute villain. She is an absolute villain. I mentioned yesterday, got a lot of reaction out of it. I mentioned yesterday, please compare and contrast. And I know that Nancy Reagan has a lot of critics, but compare and contrast Nancy Reagan with Jill Biden. Nancy Reagan was fiercely protective of Ronald Reagan. Jill Biden, she's trotting out her dementia-ridden husband so that she can remain in power, so that she can remain in the White House. A lot of people saying it's elder abuse. Daily Mail has this headline. You ready? Key Democrat donors are now threatening to pull the plug if Joe Biden does not resign, as furious party insiders reveal worst fears about ailing president have now been confirmed. And the quote is, "How stupid do they think that we are?" So we'll get into that story and a whole lot more. 866-90-RED-EYE is the phone number. Barb is in Reno, Nevada on Red Eye Radio. Hey, Barb.
Yeah, hello there. Thank you for having me on. And what I am still concerned about is that 1984 is here. Orwell was right, a few years too early, and the twisting of what we are told. Just like, no, you don't see him doing that. No, that doesn't happen. That's a lie. And the Republicans need to fight back about the lies we are told by the Democrats. And I don't see them doing that. Especially that quote that he said the other night, "No one has died on my watch," when 13 American servicemen have died on my watch. I would love to have the Republican blast that out and say, hey, he is lying. He is lying. He is delusional.
Well,
they have to start to attack our president, because he's nothing but a liar, a bigger liar, I feel, than our contender, who, of course, is Trump.
Right. Well, I'll say this, Barb, that, number one, a lot of Republicans and even Democrats jumped on that quote by Joe Biden, because everybody knows what happened in Afghanistan. So I think that I agree with you on the whole 1984 thing. Totally get it. Understood. But here's the other thing, is that the media has now become well aware, and well, not well aware. They knew about all this, but they've now been willing to acknowledge what is going on with President Biden. They're now acknowledging it. I mean, earlier in the program, I'm sorry you probably missed it, way earlier in the program, I played some audio from Jake Tapper going after Democratic Senator Chris Coons. And Coons is also on Biden's reelection campaign. And Tapper was going after Coons because he was basically saying that the Democrat was basically saying, well, there's nothing to see here. And Tapper actually called them out. And Tapper was very cynical of what Coons was saying. We saw over the weekend, Margaret Brennan did the same thing, where she had Wesley Moore on, the governor from Maryland, and she was challenging him on the Democrats basically telling the American people, well, there's nothing to see here, when clearly there is something to see. And so I agree with you, Barb, with what you say, but I think the tide has turned. I think the tide has turned. Now, the Democrats have gotten themselves in a real pickle, and ultimately this could end up as a win for the Republicans, because if Joe Biden somehow remains on the ticket, and the more we go, day after day after day, the further we go along and head towards November, the more it looks like there's absolutely no way that Joe Biden can remain in office. I mean, you hear the stories every day. This new one that I'm just telling you about with insiders within the White House talking about just how bad it is inside the White House, the cover-up as well. Now this story that I'm going to give more information on after the break. Key Democrat donors are telling the Democrats they're going to pull the plug if Joe Biden doesn't resign, and they're not going to give any more money. I think ultimately that if you're a conservative and you want Donald Trump back in the White House, that the Democrats and their inaction on Joe Biden and acknowledging what apparently many people knew within the Democrat Party could ultimately bite them in the butt and help Donald Trump win a second term. 866-90-RED-EYE, 866-907-3339.
This morning's USDA Farm Report is brought to you by Howes Products. Tested, trusted, guaranteed since 1920.
You are a grill master. You'll do everything right for that July 4th cookout using a food thermometer to make sure you cook the meat and poultry to an internal temperature hot enough to kill any bacteria. You will use a set of platters and utensils to handle raw meat and poultry, a different set for the cooked product to avoid cross-contamination. But there's still a way to mess things up, right?
Yep.
Yep. Meredith Carruthers, Agriculture Department food safety expert, says one of the biggest July 4th mistakes is leaving that grilled meat and poultry out for too long at the mercy of bacteria in the air or from people's hands or any place. 2 hours is the absolute longest you should leave it out.
Because that's a time frame where bacteria can then reach dangerous levels, and ultimately then if they reach those dangerous levels, they may not be able to be killed by reheating or cooking further or anything like that. So then you're kind of stuck with them.
And if the temperature is 90 degrees or above,
then that time frame actually bumps down to 1 hour.
So she says either put that food on ice or keep it very hot. Gary Crawford reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture.
This report brought to you by Cenex Fuels and Lubes.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. Appreciate you listening. My name is Dan Mandis, in for Gary and Eric. They return next Sunday night, Monday morning. 866-90-RED-EYE is the phone number, 866-907-3339. This is that story out of the Daily Mail I was telling you about. Key Democrat donors threatening to pull the plug if Biden does not resign. They say furious party insiders revealed the worst fears about ailing president, and now they are asking the Democrats, how stupid do they think that we are? For Biden's own good and the good of the country, he should step aside immediately, says major Democratic donor and former hedge fund manager Whitney Tilson, telling DailyMail.com. This is, by the way, again, an exclusive on their site. The fact that it has now been 3 days and Biden has done nothing to reassure us confirms my worst fears. Tilson has given the Democrat Party more than $300,000 in recent years. They say days after the president struggled to hold his train of thought and tailed off mid-answer in incomprehensible gibberish during the CNN debate, left-wing benefactors are still up in arms, as, by the way, they should be. And listen, whether it's Democrat donors, whether it is the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, whether it's the New York Times, there's a number of different left-leaning media outlets that are now calling for President Joe Biden to resign. The question is, will he?
Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios. Now, for Gary McNamara and Eric Harley, here is Dan Mandis.
Red Eye Radio, indeed. 866-90 Red Eye, 866-907-3339. You know, this is becoming really a Democrat problem, the situation with Joe Biden. There's a headline out there now that Van Jones is going after some of these other Democrats who are critical of those Democrats that are calling out Joe Biden and the Biden administration. And so there's a lot of infighting going on within the Democrat Party right now. And I was telling you right before the break about this story in the Daily Mail. They call it an exclusive, where key Democrat donors are now threatening to pull their money, if Biden does not resign. And one of the quotes is, how stupid do they think we are? Because, you know, the Biden administration, they've been telling us all along, and a lot of these Democrats have been telling us all along, Joe Biden is fine. There's no problem. And then, as Carl Bernstein said, the horror show that was the debate on Thursday blew the lid off of all of that kind of thinking. Because we now know, and we knew it, you know, conservatives knew it for a long time. You know, it's funny. Remember when Biden was at some sort of a something somewhere, and he started calling out for a congresswoman that has been killed in an automobile accident? Remember the famous line, "Where's Jackie?" And a hush over the room because Jackie, that congressman, had been killed in a car accident, you know, some 30 days before. And people were horrified, because Joe Biden was told that she had been killed. But there he is, the front of the stage, saying, "Where's Jackie?" Who's going to tell him that Jackie's dead? I mean, it's a horrifying thought. And so when you've got, and I played you the audio of Carl Bernstein, you know, of Watergate fame, and he's out there saying that the Democrats have been covering up Joe Biden's dementia, and that he's had dozens of episodes where he is completely blanked out or he's stiffened up. He's had episodes where his mind is just gone. And Jill Biden and the Democrats within his administration, they have all covered it up. And so now the question is, will the American people, number one, are they losing trust? I mean, obviously, the American people have lost their faith and lost their trust in Joe Biden because he's still out there, even though he's clearly having cognitive issues. But what does this say about the Democrat Party? They had a big phone call with donors. They're calling it a big rah-rah speech. And these big-time donors, they're not buying it. DNC members are really criticizing the Biden administration. Some say that they felt gaslighted by campaign officials on this particular call, who seemed to deny that there is anything to be concerned about. The official Team Biden line appears to be nothing to see here. How is that possible? One woman says, on every metric that matters, data shows the debate did nothing to change the American people's perception, says Jen O'Malley Dillon, chair of the Biden-Harris 2024 campaign, insisting in a memo released over the weekend. Does anybody really believe that? Mike LaRosa tweeted this out. The data, he is, by the way, former press secretary to First Lady Jill Biden. If there is data that counters the impact of what we all saw, then where the hell is that data? Democrat donor Whitney Tilson similarly didn't mince words. She says they're peeing on our legs and telling us it's raining. It's insulting. How stupid do they think we are? I mean, didn't we talk about this? I think we talked about, well, I know I did on my local show. But the polling has shown that roughly 7% more of the American people now believe that Joe Biden, on top of the many people that felt before that Joe Biden was not functioning well, another 7% on top of that very high number. Because of the debate, now felt like Joe Biden needed to step down, that he was not up to the job of being the president of the United States. They say a CBS News YouGov poll conducted over the 2 days following the CNN debate found that 72% of registered voters now do not believe that Joe Biden has the mental and cognitive health to serve as president. That number, by the way, is up from 65% in early June. That's the stat I was talking about. On Monday morning, Biden was still holed up at Camp David with his family, who had collected for a post-debate photo shoot with famed celebrity snapper Annie Leibovitz. It goes on and on, but I think you get the idea. I've got one more audio bite from Carl Bernstein talking about the cover-up within the Biden administration.
I've heard for 2 years how sharp Joe Biden is in his national security meetings. He has special briefing books on Ukraine, on the situation in Gaza that go down into very detailed military reports. He has an absolute command of the facts. He's sharp as can be. You see the evidence of his being the chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee in the Senate, of his work as vice president on foreign relations. So we're clearly dealing with two sets of one person. But this is a problem that's not going to go away unless it's explicable. Does this mean doctors' reports? I mean, obviously it'd be great if we could have real doctors' reports from both candidates. Well, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
No, but Donald Trump has been out there saying he is more than willing to take a cognitive test. This is the headline. And by the way, this segment is kind of about the Democrat infighting over Joe Biden. Because you've now got the media calling out the Democrats. You've got some Democrats calling out other Democrats. You've got some Democrats saying, there's no problem. And you've got other Democrats saying, are you kidding me? So really for the conservatives and the Republicans, all they've got to do is just sit back and watch the train wreck. Pop the popcorn. Daily Mail headline, I'm in Pampers. Van Jones hitting back at dogged Democrats who labeled Joe Biden critics bedwetters as he challenges 81-year-old Joe Biden to an unscripted sit-down interview. Now, remember, Van Jones, let me see if I can pull it up real quickly. You know who Van Jones is, right? You folks know who Van Jones is? Van Jones is a political operative. He is, very clearly left-leaning. And this is a guy who is not afraid and is very willing to call out his own party. And that's one of the things that I've always been impressed with Van Jones over, is he is willing to call out his own party. And again, that is a good thing. And so Van Jones, remember, this is the guy leading into the debate. He was the one that said that if this debate does not go well for Joe Biden, then he's going to have to step down. That was Van Jones who said that. Again, remember, he is a very powerful and vocal Democrat operative. And so this is what Van Jones said after the debate.
He didn't do well at all. He did not do well at all. And he looked, I'll give you the analysis. You kind of have the old man versus the con man. I can walk you through how I'm supposed to see it and say it, but I just want to speak from my heart. I love that guy. That's a good man. He loves his country. He's doing the best that he can. But he had a test to meet tonight to restore confidence of the country and of the base, and he failed to do that. And I think there's a lot of people who are going to want to see him consider taking a different course now. We're still far from our convention.
Yeah, and so that was Van Jones basically saying that that Joe Biden needs to step down. And you have Democrats that are saying, to Van Jones and others who are criticizing Joe Biden, telling them to shut up. You're just a bunch of bedwetters. There's nothing to see here. Clearly, there's something to see here. And so if you're a Van Jones, and I'm somebody who's obviously very politically minded, watching all of this take place, I take what Van Jones says very seriously. Now, I don't want to see, just to put a wrap on this, I don't want to see Joe Biden resign, because I believe that Donald Trump has a really good chance, clearly, of beating Joe Biden. And for Van Jones to say, okay, you know what? Because I don't know if Trump is going to actually agree to that second debate. I don't know if he'll do that second debate. We'll have to wait and see what happens. But I love what Van Jones says. If everything is okay, then I challenge Joe Biden to sit down for an unscripted interview to see how he does. But I'm sure they'll call George Stephanopoulos. They'll prepare all the questions. They'll give the questions to Joe Biden and his handlers, and that's how that whole thing will play out. But there's a lot of Democrat infighting that is going on right now, and it all centers around Joe Biden and his ability to go through not only the rest of this campaign, but another 4 years. I love that Van Jones, and by the way, there's others as well. I think James Carville out there is also calling out Joe Biden and the Democrat Party for what they're doing, which is trying to insist that Joe Biden can make it through this campaign, make it another 4 years, when clearly the entire world knows that there is absolutely no way that he would be able to make it. The phone number is 866-90-RED-EYE, 866-907-3339. My name is Dan Mandis, and for Eric and Gary, this is Red Eye Radio.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
Red Eye Radio, 866-90-RED-EYE is the phone number, 866-907-3339. I got to tell you that the more you see the Democrats fighting over this Joe Biden thing, you realize that this is going to turn into a Democrat civil war. It really is. And so for the Republicans, it's almost like we just have to sit back and watch the train crash. We just have to sit back and watch all of this happen. Now, people keep asking me, and you can find me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram as well, all at Dan Mandis Show. I host a morning show on Super Talk 99.7 WTN in Nashville, Tennessee. From 6 to 10 Eastern, you can check it out at 997WTN.com. We are also on Facebook and also YouTube. We live stream on video the radio program as well. So you can check us out. Just 99.7 WTN, Super Talk 99.7. And so when you look at the Democrats and you look at the Civil War, people keep asking me the question, well, you're talking about this. You're talking about the Civil War within the Democrat Party. And it sounds like, they'll say, Mandis, it sounds like you're telling the Democrats that they need to ditch Joe Biden. Is that what you want the Democrats to do? No. As I said earlier in the broadcast, I believe that I said it yesterday as well, I want the Democrats to keep Joe Biden. Absolutely. But you know what's stunning to me? What's stunning to me is that there are people out there that would still trust the Democrat Party, even after what we're hearing with Carl Bernstein saying that he has sources inside the White House and inside Washington, D.C., where they are saying this has been going on, the Joe Biden that we've all seen behind the scenes. It's even worse than what we've seen. Now, the debate on Thursday night, I mean, that really did blow this whole story wide open, and everybody knows that. But, it's interesting because I keep going back to the same thing, which is there's a lot of members of the media, for those of you that are just joining us, there's a lot of members of the media out there that are finally holding the Democrats and holding each other, sort of, accountable. So you've got Margaret Brennan, you've got Jake Tapper, you've got some others as well that are on the likes of CNN. And by the way, CNN, can I just say this? You do have some reporters out there that are asking the tough questions. Now, on the one hand, you can say, and I have been, well, it's about damn time. Because the rest of us have been talking about this for at least a year. We have seen the signs for a year now. And so the Democrats only have themselves to blame. You know, they are going insane with all this. And the more that they get upset, it's going to be interesting to see where this whole thing goes because they are stuck.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.